All right. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever it is you're watching this from. This is Franklin Ezenwa here, and I'm really very excited and fired up today because I have an amazing guest with me here in the person of Francisco Baldoza. Hey, Francisco.
Hi there.
How you
Hi,
doing?
everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening as well.
Amazing. Awesome. Yeah. So before I jump into the interview, I just want to read Francisco's bio just so you get to know a little bit about him before, we dive in. So Francisco Baldoza was raised in the Philippines. His parents are Filipinos. So he worked as a registered nurse back in Philippines for many years before migrating to Canada. So he's currently working as a UCP and a PSW in a retirement home. So prior to landing his ideal job as a nurse here in Canada, Francisco worked a number of temporary jobs where he developed his skills in customer service and in leading and supervising others. So having gone through a number of challenges which most immigrants face, he is very passionate about sharing his story to help other immigrants with landing their ideal and dream job in Canada. So Francisco, thank you so much for being a part of this. I really appreciate you, spending time doing this. So thank you very much.
Oh, no worries. I'm glad to assist you with this one.
Awesome. All right. So why don't we dive right in? Do you mind just sharing your story so that the listeners can get to know more about you? So mostly your migration story, the spotlighting, the career progression, your career journey.
Okay. So let me just correct your introduction to me. I'm
Okay.
currently working as a registered practical nurse at the Ottawa Hospital right now.
Oh, okay.
So being a UCP and PSW is part of my journey going to
I see.
to
Okay.
where I am right now.
Mm-hmm.
So my background, you already mentioned I'm a registered nurse back in the Philippines. So I moved here last 2013. I work at Tim Hortons as a storefront after a week of my arrival. And then I got promoted as a supervisor after a month. And then I started working as well at the same time at Pizza Hut as a storefront. And then after that, I got a job as a night auditor or not night auditor or front desk in Comfort Inn. I went back to school after 8 months of working. And 2015, I graduated and got my license as well at the same time during that year for practical nursing.
Nice.
And that's the time started working in the hospital.
Right.
And your question, the spotlight regarding
The career
my
progression, yeah.
my grading here. Well, I mentioned it to you that I waited for like 8 years before moving here in Canada. So my mom sponsored me when I was 19 years old, but due
Nice.
to backlogs of applications or any problems with immigration, it took them 8 years to process
Wow.
my permanent resident.
Mm-hmm.
So I couldn't work during that time. Well, in the Philippines, technically, uh, I started working because I lost hope already of getting my permanent residence after like 5 years.
Wow.
And then fortunately, after 2 years, they released my permanent resident. So during those 2 years, that's the time I was working as a nurse, and then I work as customer service as well at the same time.
Nice.
Uh,
Nice. Nice.
yeah. So like before getting my RPN, I worked like everywhere. I work even as a PSW, UCP, and everything when I moved here to Canada.
Right.
Uh, Before I went back to school, I'd been like working almost every day because I don't want to borrow a lot of money for my
Yeah.
tuition fee.
Right.
And like the government helps us out. We get like 50% off with the tuition fee, but it's still expensive. So
Right.
I'm working like 3, 4 jobs sometimes or during the day and work 14 days straight just to
Wow.
accommodate all the expenses.
Right.
And
Yeah, I think that's thank you.
That's pretty much everything with your first question.
Yeah, thank you very much. And yeah, thank you for making the correction as well. So I
Yeah,
think
no worries.
it's now very clear. So thank you. So do you mind like sharing a little bit about like PSW, like I know it's personal support worker, like
Worker?
yeah, just share a
Yeah.
little bit about like what you do, just so the listeners can have more clarity on that.
So personal support worker is technically under the healthcare field as well.
Nice.
So in the hospital, they call it PCA as well. It's like like support to the nurses and to the patients. So I work in a retirement home. My my main priority of my job is to like take care of the old people,
Okay.
assist them going to the dining room,
Right.
doing their care, like your care, assisting them with their shower,
Yeah.
technically assisting them with almost everything that they need.
Okay.
And then with the UCP, because I have a background of nursing, so my direct supervisor or the RPN who's working is technically trained me to assist with medications with under their supervision.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's awesome. Yeah, that seems like it's a very it's a position that requires a lot of let's say
A lot of patience, my friend.
patience, a lot of patience and lots of compassion for people.
Oh, of course.
And in that. So wow, Dan, thank you very much for what you do. I think that's really very very, very rewarding. I would also believe that's also very rewarding. So thank you for that. So like moving on, in the course of you landing that position, here in Canada, I can imagine that you had a number of obstacles, right?
Of course, yes.
So do you mind like sharing with us like the top 3 obstacles you had to overcome or you went through in the course of you landing that position?
Well, when I landed, of course, language barrier is number 1. Yes, I'm from the Philippines. Our second language is English.
Oh, okay, nice.
But I'm not really that fluent. And even now, I'm still, progressing every day. I'm still practicing.
Very good, by the way. Your English is good. I understand.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Number 2, Canadian experience.
Oh, okay.
So I applied multiple different positions, different places as well. They won't hire you right away. The first thing that they will ask is if you have Canadian experience. Canadian experience. Well, you're a new immigrant. I don't have any Canadian experience. Right. I do have experience back in the Philippines, but they won't consider that one. So I'm just lucky that I got hired in Pizza Hut and Tim Hortons because we know somebody. My mom knows the supervisor in Tim Hortons.
Nice.
And even in Pizza Hut. So they're willing to take me in and train me.
Right. That's awesome.
Yeah. Last one, of course, adjusting to your place. Winter.
Oh, temperature, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's a new environment, right? Especially when I arrived 2013, as far as I remember, it's one of the worst winter.
Oh, yes. You're very correct. You're correct.
In the history of Canada. So I'm like really out of it during winter. Because my travel time going to my work takes me at least an hour.
Oh, wow.
When I moved to being a front desk in Comfort Inn, I'm staying close to the airport and my work is in Canada.
That's great.
I couldn't drive during that time, so I have to take the bus for an hour going to work.
Wow.
That's the 3 top obstacles I've encountered.
Oh, wow. That's really very interesting. Yeah, the language barrier, I can imagine how that would have been. But yeah, like it seems like you were really very quick at getting a foot in the reclining English. So that's really very
I tried my best.
Yeah. That's great. And so, you mentioned language barrier, you mentioned lack of Canadian experience, and you also mentioned the difference in the temperature, right? The weather. Yeah. So what were some of the things you did in the course of navigating or dealing with those challenges?
So for language barrier, I'm a fan of anime.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, okay.
So with my reading comprehension, what I do is I always watch anime and read the subtitle as quickly as I can.
Mhm.
And then for the words, of course, on speaking, I'm always watching Hollywood movies or
Oh
reading
yeah,
newspapers. And
nice.
then whenever I'm reading newspapers, I read it out loud and
Mm,
I practice.
right.
Practice every day.
Mm-hmm. That's
And yeah, that's the thing that what I did for language barrier.
mm-hmm.
But and then with Canadian experience, well, luckily I got hired,
Mm-hmm.
and then that's the time I got Canadian experience. Uh, I got lucky. I got promoted right away, but I didn't stop there. I tried my best to find another job that
Mm-hmm.
pays more
Yeah.
and a little bit more challenging, and then went back to school
Mm.
to you know practice my English because when you go back to school, you have to take English class as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, it helps me out with my career,
Yeah.
going back to being a nurse at least.
Mm-hmm.
And then, lastly, for the environment, buy good winter clothes.
I know it. Yeah, for sure. That's really yeah, that's really very important, because the environment we live in, it has a role it plays in other areas too of our lives, right?
Yeah.
To our level of comfort. And so that's really very good. And when you talked about you know, learning English by reading newspapers, animes, and watching movies. That's a very, I think that's a very smart thing to do. And I think
Mhm.
it's also a very fast way as well. But by the way, like when you said that, I was like, oh, that's really very cool because I'm looking to learn French right now. I'm working on learning French. And then I had somebody who gave that recommendation to me because that's how the person learns English. So the person told me
Oh,
that they,
okay.
they basically would watch movies or read English movies. They will clearly or carefully read through the subtitle. They would
Yeah.
also read newspapers. So that was kind of like something that I started in. And I think that's a very neat trick in learning
Yeah.
language. So that was awesome. Thanks for sharing that as well. That's awesome. And then for the language barrier, for not the language barrier, the lack of Canadian experience. So I think what you're trying to say, or what you said was that, you were able to get your feet in the door, even though it
Mhm.
wasn't with the ideal kind of job, but at least you
Yeah,
started
yeah.
somewhere to begin building that's Canadian
Like
experience.
building your experience. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's really very good. That was awesome. That's great. Yes, obviously for the winter, go paddle.
Well, buy your winter clothes properly. Well, buy it after winter. That's the time you buy it,
Yes,
not
don't
before
wait for
winter,
winter.
because it's cheaper.
Okay, yeah, that's a very good insight here. So buy the
Yeah.
winter jacket after.
After,
Yes,
yeah,
in the summertime because that's normally when you have a lot of sales.
yeah,
Yes, okay, that's
especially
really,
for the boots.
I know, eh? Oh, man, to
Yeah,
walk through the snow.
yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for sharing that.
Oh, no
So,
worries.
so I think you probably already touched on this, but I'll just see if you have any more points to mention. So in terms of the lack of Canadian experience, which is perhaps one of the top obstacles or challenge most
Yeah.
immigrants face. So what else? What are some of the other things you may have done in the course of navigating that hurdle, which perhaps you may not have mentioned? Is there anything else that's
Oh, yeah. Actually, I remember before moving here, if you're moving here as a permanent resident,
Mm-hmm.
the Canadian government provides seminars.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, well, before leaving or before leaving your country.
Yeah.
So back in the Philippines, I attended those seminars. They usually teach you how to make your resume.
Mm-hmm.
They provide you your expectations,
Right.
things that you need to do at first. One thing that I've learned from them is the networking. So that's
Right.
what I did. So I asked around. My mom asked around. Uh, the friend of this friend has a supervisor who works at Tim's.
Yeah.
Maybe we can recommend you, those kind
Mm-hmm.
of things. So that one really worked out pretty well for me because when I arrived here 2013, especially because I arrived here before summer. So people are having problems getting a job because students will be off in a month, like
Right.
by
Right.
June.
Right.
So there's no really any job posting because
Mhm.
majority of the students are going back to work as well during summer.
Mhm.
So I just got lucky that my mom's friend knows
Mm.
somebody at Tim Hortons, and then
Right.
they hired me on the spot.
That's
Like
awesome.
I did the whole process still, the interview.
Yeah.
But if you have, so like network,
Yeah.
and you mentioned already a while ago, once you start or once your fit is in or
Mhm.
started working,
Mhm.
progressing your Canadian experience,
Yeah.
like sooner or later you get the job that you want.
Mm. Mhm. Mhm.
Mm. It
Yeah.
helps you out. Yeah. So, it will work out. It depends on the day you apply, because as I've told you, I mentioned you have to consider also that summer is coming when you arrive here in Canada. At least you have to plan things ahead of time.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Wow, that's really very interesting. And it's a very salient point you mentioned, the power of network, right?
Yeah. The
Yeah, 'cause
power of network.
yeah, so it's not always about, like they say, it's not always about who you know, but who knows you as well, right? And that really
Yeah.
helps a lot. And it speaks a lot about community, being a
Hmm.
part of the community, getting to know people, because you never can tell, when
Yeah.
someone needs help. So that's really very good. Awesome. So 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 you've been working, as a nurse in Canada for some time now, and you already shared with us what you do. So looking back, right? If you were to
Hmm.
start all over again, what are some things you would have done, or what are some things you would do differently?
I might have changed my career. I'm just kidding. Well, anyway, I don't know, like, but it's okay. It's a good career actually. Like I'm
Mm.
working right now in the hospital, practical nursing, but during pandemic, I was sent down to help out with people who got affected in long-term care.
Mm.
I can still remember that experience. But if you're gonna ask me if I can turn back the time and
Yeah, if you
change
can turn back the time
change
to,
something, I
what
will
are
be
some things you
changing
have
my
done
career most
differently?
probably.
Oh, sorry, you would do what?
Change up my career. I'll
Oh,
change my career. Like I'll change my maybe I'll do computer technology or IT instead.
oh yeah.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, well, that's one thing because pandemic happened, right?
Hmm.
And not everyone was expecting that one, of course. And I was sent down to help out people in long-term cares. The experience is really good.
Hmm.
Like it's life-changing,
Mm.
but seeing people dying because of
Wow.
COVID,
Yeah.
for me, that's not a good experience.
Mm.
That's why if I can change back time, I'll most probably will not be in this field. But
Right.
anyway, I'm already here. I'm like still waiting for my RN, registered nurse, because right now I'm registered practical nurse.
Okay.
Technically, there's a little bit difference with RN and RPN.
Okay. Give me
We
a
do
share.
have like a restriction in safe with the scope of practice.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm still processing my paperwork and all my credentials
Mhm.
towards my RN. Hopefully, I'll get it by the next 2 years.
Oh, okay.
Well, going back to your question, because I answered a funny one. I gave you an answer that's really funny, but yeah, if going back, I would kind of like plan more things before arriving here.
Oh yeah. Like what?
Yeah, like because it took me like a week to get a job.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, back then, because I was expecting to get like I really didn't expect to work at Tim Hortons right away.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
was expecting a different one because I work in the Philippines as a nurse, and then I
Yeah.
work there as a um, like a supervisor in
Right.
bench, and then I work in call center
Hmm.
as a customer representative. So I was expecting that I'll be working in a different industry, not in the food. because
Right.
I don't like to work in the food industry back then
Yeah.
because it's crazy busy.
Mm.
Uh, I was expecting that one, but I didn't have a choice because that's the only opportunity that is available during that time. And
Mm-hmm.
I needed mechanician experience
Right. Right.
because my first two jobs, I worked at Pizza Hut and Tim Hortons,
Mm-hmm.
which is both in the food industry.
Right. Right.
Yeah, if I can turn back the time, I would plan things ahead of time.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I can choose a better,
Mm-hmm.
better job opportunity for me.
Right.
That's a good opportunity. I don't mind working there, like,
Right.
but if I do have to change something back then, I would plan things more ahead
Mm-hmm.
of time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow, that's really very good. Yeah,
Hmm.
for sure. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
And we touched a little bit on the power of communities, right?
Hmm.
Were there any communities that you found really very beneficial and helpful, especially in terms, with regards to you landing this job as a nurse?
Oh, yeah. The Of course we do have Filipino community.
Oh, okay. Filipino
Yeah,
community in Canada.
in Canada. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay.
So my mom knows somebody, and then of course it's network.
Right.
So they reach out. So my son will be arriving soon. Blah blah
Yeah.
blah. Maybe you can help us out.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of resources online as well, like searching in Canada job banks,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's Kijiji as well.
Mm-hmm.
There's you know everything actually. You can check it online. But the
Right.
problem is they will just read your resume, especially if you don't have Canadian experience. Because I remember when I was applying, I applied like 10 different places back then
Yeah.
online.
Mm-hmm.
And I even go to the stores and drop off my resume.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, no one called me. The only people who call me is the people like my mom's friend from the community
Right.
knows the supervisor. That's the only people who called me back. So
Mm-hmm.
it's really helpful, not just for job opportunities actually, because right now I'm kind of really involved with our community.
Oh, okay.
So they do have, of course, entertainment as well. I play basketball, I play sports. So
Nice.
our during that time, one of the people who been here in Canada longer
Oh,
than
okay.
anyone else
Yeah.
arranged something in with Carleton University.
Oh,
So
yeah.
they usually rent out the court during the weekends. So
Mm.
during your off, you can play basketball,
Yeah.
have time with other people within the community,
Mm-hmm.
know new people as well, and you can spread out your network a little bit
Yeah.
more. Yeah.
Right. Right. Wow. Okay, that's awesome. So
Mhm.
basically, looking for a community centered around a community of people from, say, like your country, if
Yeah.
possible, ahead of time, and starting
Mhm.
from there, and
I
expand
started from there. Yeah,
later on. Okay,
and
that's
expanded. Mhm. Like even actually when I was looking for like information regarding processing my credentials,
mm-hmm.
there are groups in Facebook, not
Mm.
specifically from the Philippines,
Mm-hmm.
people who are trying to get their license as a
Right.
nurse.
Right.
There's a lot of groups in Facebook as well because I remember I joined one, and then that's where I started. So gathering information,
Mm.
asking people from that group.
Mm-hmm.
They call it like practical nursing of Canada,
Oh,
something like
okay.
that. Yeah.
Okay.
So there is some groups in online as well, or communities from different countries, uh, trying to get the same uh, task done.
Right.
So you just have to do your researching as well at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. That's really very cool. Very interesting. Yes, definitely. Facebook groups,
Mhm.
they're really very helpful as well. I'm sure, like if you go online, you'll find the Facebook groups or just about any single thing you want.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, yes, that's right.
Yes. So that's really very good. Yeah, that's awesome. So just a very quick, do you mind like giving a very quick, will I say, summary of what the process is to get a job in the nursing space, especially for someone who is coming in from outside? What
Oh,
like an overview of what the process is? And I know you have to write exams and all those things.
so for that one, it's every year, almost every couple of years or every year, they keep on changing how they process things. So 2013, when I arrived here, unfortunately, during that year, College of Nursing of Ontario changed everything.
Oh yeah.
So back then, you just need to go back to school for 6 months. It's just a
Mm,
refresher course.
mm.
Then you can get your RN. But now they changed everything during
Wow.
that year as well. So imagine this: during 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 the time I was studying for my practical nursing, 15 students in my class are taking almost the same course,
Oh yeah.
and they'll get their RN.
Wow.
And then the rest of us were like almost 60 or 50, oh, 40. We're getting our practical nursing instead
Mm.
because CNO changes things every now and then.
What's
Now,
what's CNO? What's CNO?
College of Nursing of Ontario, College of Nursing Ontario.
So they regulate like the
They regulate the nurses.
okay, nice.
So majority is RN, and then of course RPN is part of it.
Mm.
They're the one who technically assess everything, your credentials.
Mm-hmm.
But right now there is a new process. You have to go through a third party vendor
Mm.
who will look into your credentials. And then after looking into that or processing your credentials, they will submit the results to CNO. And then CNO will decide whether you have to do, whether if you have to go back to school
Mm-hmm.
or take the licensure exam.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting. So, oh, okay, that's very interesting. So, I did not know that people can go directly to the RNA. It's called RNA, right?
CNO.
Oh, no, the it's the level after the PSW RNA. Was that what you called it?
RPN.
Or
RPN.
RPM. What does it stand for? RPM.
Registered practical nurse.
Awesome. So that's the level
Yeah.
after the
So
you
registered nurse,
okay.
RPN, and then the PSW.
Oh, registered nurse RPM. Okay, I see.
PSW. Yeah.
Okay. That's really very good. Very good.
Mhm.
Oh, that's very interesting. And like, what's the length of time these days that it takes?
Uh, the RPN takes at least a year
Oh,
for
okay.
them to, because especially during pandemic, they said it's more than a year right now. But before pandemic, it's less than a year. They're gonna process your paperwork and then submit it to CNO, and then CNO will decide if you have to go back to school.
Hmm.
For RN, because I'm processing my RN right now as well, takes you at least 1 to 2 years.
Oh, yeah.
Just for processing it.
Hmm.
And that's excluding if you're gonna take your exam, if you need to go back to the Philippines or to your country to update your safe practice.
Right.
Because while processing at the same time, because you're here in Canada, right? You don't have the license to practice here. So technically, the safe practice is the last time you practice as a nurse.
Right.
So I only have my license back in the Philippines,
Yeah.
and that was like 8 years ago.
Hmm.
So if I want to update my RN, I have to go back there, do my safe practice back in the Philippines, and then submit the number of hours I worked there to CNO. And if they will consider it, I can proceed to the next stage.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time, the next stage is by taking the licensure exam and the jurisprudence exam.
Wow.
Mhm.
That's
A lot
interesting.
of things to consider actually, because they will also look into your English proficiency.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another exam. So if you're from a different country, they call it IELTS.
Yes, IOTS. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to take that one as well, and there is number of points
Mm-hmm.
that they will only consider. I think at least 8 or 9,
Mm-hmm.
8 or something. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, I know. It's usually a lot of procedures, especially in the healthcare space
Yeah,
like that.
it's a lot, too much actually,
Yeah.
and expensive at the same
Mm,
time.
mm. Wow. Well, yeah, I'm glad that at least you're able to get in.
Oh yes.
But, yeah,
Yeah.
that's really very good. Um, so you talked about a body that helps with basically doing accreditation, right? Accreditation.
Yeah,
So
you're the one who's processing your credentials.
okay, okay. Do you remember what some of those the one you use, for example, or what some of them are?
Let me double check it. I can't remember the
Okay,
names
it's fine. It's
actually.
fine. It's okay. It's all good.
It's
It's
okay.
fine. Yeah, I guess maybe if we would, I'll get it from you later on.
Oh,
I'll put
NNAS actually. NNAS.
and
NNAS. And let me search it quick here. So it's National Nursing Assessment Service.
oh, National Nursing Assessment Service. So NNAS.
Mhm.
Oh, okay, that's awesome. That's really very
Yeah.
good. Okay, yeah, I'll be sure to mention that in the description for the video.
Oh, perfect. Yeah.
That's great. All right.
So yeah, they're the one who's gonna process everything first and then submit it to CNO.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. Okay, sounds good. Sounds good.
Mhm.
All right, that's really very good. Thanks for sharing those information. I'll be sure to leave that in the notes for the video. So moving on to the next question. I think you may have hinted a little bit on this, but what were some of the cultural differences or cultural shock you faced, especially in the workplace? Were there a number of them? Anyone you want to share with?
Well, you well, actually working with the different races.
Ooh,
So
okay.
because I'm used to like working only with Filipinos back in the Philippines, right? Uh, excuse. Culture shock. Well, that's one thing. When you cough back home, when you cough, you do it like this. But here you do it like this.
Yes, yes, the
Yes.
elbow sneeze or elbow cough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's one thing. And then because we don't have like a he she on our language.
Oh, okay.
We're in our like native language in our Tagalog. We don't really use she he. We use
Oh,
like
yeah.
brother sister. That's our term. So
Hmm.
I'm kind of mixed up with he and she with my sentences all the time when
Oh,
I'm speaking in English.
right, right.
Uh, what else in culture actually?
Oh, that's a very interesting one. I
Yeah.
know about that. So the he or she seems to be really use it for people who are, because normally I think normally to be used for people who you see to be very closely connected to, right? But
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't seem like that's not always the case. You're not always closely connected to every single person you come across, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, oh, there's one thing as well because back in the Philippines, we're used on calling, as a sign of respect to people,
Mm.
sir. You know,
Yeah.
that's one thing. But here it's different. If you call somebody from like if they're really young or if they're like in college and if you call them sir or madam, it's disrespectful
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because they're still young.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So back in my country, it's fine because it's kind of like a sign of respect.
Yeah.
Or as as a like if you're working as a storefront in Tim Hortons,
Mm-hmm.
for us back in the Philippines, it's fine if you call me sir or madam,
Mm-hmm.
but here, no,
Oh,
especially if they're young.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
If they are old, it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
If they're young, it's a no-no.
I see.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I can imagine that because like the person is gonna be like, oh, I'm young. Why are you calling me sir or ma?
yeah, yeah. That's one of the things I've encountered back then.
Yeah. Oh
Mhm.
yeah. And I think did you also face the one where people don't really feel comfortable calling them say like Mr., Mrs.
Yes,
Okay, calling
yeah,
them
yes.
just by the first name,
Same
right?
thing. Mr.
I
and Miss
kind of think that
Mrs. No, just use their first name.
salutation.
Yeah,
That's very
yeah.
interesting. Okay, that's that. I faced the same thing too at my workplace. So I remember around the time I came in newly to the workplace, I was referring to my manager as Mr. And then one day he was like, You don't have to come.
Yes, even my boss, actually, you don't have to call me boss. Just call me my
Yes.
first name.
Yeah, he said
That's
just call
fine.
me by my first name. That's fine.
Yeah. Well, I'm used to it back then.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Very interesting. All right. So like coming to the end of the interview, thank you so much for your time again. So like from your experience so far, right, and knowing what you know now, the journey you've been through, do you have any say value any more like valuable insights or information that you feel we haven't like touched on to help somebody, especially who's looking to get into the nursing field as an immigrant in Canada?
Oh, yeah.
Are there
Actually,
anything
we
you want to
mentioned almost everything, but I just want to like I'll just emphasize one thing. Do your research before proceeding to processing your paperwork because it's very expensive.
Mm,
Like you know this as well. Like the money here, we really work hard for it.
mhm,
Uh, and if you're unsure of finishing the processing of your paperwork as a nurse, uh, don't start. Like
mm,
do your research. Talk to yourself. Ask yourself if you really want to do it, because it takes a lot of patience, takes a
mm,
lot of time.
mm,
You'll get frustrated at the same time as well because
mhm.
CNO or there are factors that you need to consider. As I have
Yeah.
said, if you update your safe practice and then CNO didn't accept it, you have to go back to school for
Mm,
another 2 years.
mm.
So you have to really, process everything slowly, and you have to be 100% sure.
Right, right.
All the information is available online.
Mhm.
They can even message me in Facebook, or just
Okay.
ask. They can ask you, and then you can just pass me the message. I can give you the websites or the
Right.
groups that you need to use. But
Mhm,
yeah, like,
mhm,
do your research first.
mhm.
Make sure you're 100% sure on what you're doing,
Right.
and then that's the time you can start because yeah, it's expensive.
Mm, mhm,
Mhm.
mhm.
But it's worth it because my sisters, they're both registered nurse
Yeah.
now
Okay.
already. Uh, I'm teaching as well with Algonquin College
Oh, that's great.
since yeah.
That's awesome.
So that's why I decided to go on and get my RN as well, so
Mm.
I can continue what I'm doing. So yeah.
Wow, that's great. That's great. That's
Mhm.
awesome. Yeah. So yeah, you mentioned like you're teaching, right? You said at Algonquin.
I'm
So
teaching as a clinical instructor for practical nursing as well
that's
with
amazing.
Algonquin College.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah. That's really very incredible. Awesome.
Mhm.
Well, I mean, that's something you started doing even after you landed your position as a nurse, right? You didn't
No,
have to
I
do.
started working as in clinical instructor 3 years ago.
Oh, so do you think that kind of like helped you in landing this position or not really?
Not really, not really.
Okay.
But because I'm teaching practical nursing student,
Okay.
so my scope of practice is like I'm not getting additional scope of practice as well because it's
Right.
very limited still.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But getting my RN, I can start teaching nursing student as well
Okay.
because I cannot teach other like I can only teach practical nursing students
Right. People in your in this within the scope of your.
within my scope of practice. But
Okay.
if I get my RN, I can teach RN, RPN, and PSW.
Oh, okay. So that kind of
Mhm.
like broadens the scope of people you
Yeah.
teach. Oh,
Mhm,
that's incredible.
mhm. And
Awesome.
then more opportunities at the same time.
Of course, of course, of
Mhm.
course, of course. Wow, that's awesome.
Mhm.
Yeah, like I pray that everything goes on well with your application for
Cross our fingers.
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah,
All right. So I don't know if there's anything else you want to leave us with before we call it.
that's everything. I think. I hope this one will help some people out there.
Mm,
And
mhm.
thank you for the opportunity, Franklin. You've
Yeah,
been a wonderful host.
thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, awesome. Thank you very, very much, Francisco, for taking
You're
the
welcome.
time. And thank you for all of those valuable information you shared. I'm sure, I'm sure, and I'm hoping also that, someone finds value in this. And yeah, thank you very much, Francisco. Really appreciate it. So yeah, so thanks everyone for watching, and I hope you get to like apply some of these things and applying it to land your ideal position in the nursing space. So again, so have a wonderful one, and stay blessed. Bye.
Bye.
Hello, this is Franklin here. I hope you found that interview session very insightful, just like I did. So to get a collection of more ideas, recommendation, and even a guide on how you can land your dream or ideal job as an immigrant to Canada, be sure to check out my new ebook. It's titled Crack the Dream Job Code. So for more information about the book and to get a link, see the description of the video below. Thank you.